As it is now.
It's ready.
Time is now 5:30 p.m. and I'll call the April 13th meeting of Lawrence County Council to order. We'll start by an invocation by Mr. McDaniel, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pray with me if you will. Dear Lord, we come to you once again to ask that you come into these chambers and help guide our hearts and our minds, so we may make the best decisions for our county. We ask that you stay with us throughout the budget season and make it and help us and help guide us, so we may provide the service that our citizens so deserve. We pray for those who are protecting us here and abroad. These things we ask in your name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, good evening. Thank you all for joining us this evening. I know the agenda looks big. We'll try to get to the best we can. I'm going to call for a motion to approve the agenda, but I do want to make one addition before we do so. All y'all should have gotten a copy of the updated agenda, which was the copy that was sent to the media and posted on the website. We are going to have one item at the bottom, letter M, approval for job description for the assessor office. If you will write that in, and I will now call for a motion for to approve the agenda as amended.
So move to approve and
Second.
Motion by Mr. McDaniel, second by Mr. Rankin. Are there any other additions or deletions? Here none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. 7-0. Next, we move into approval of minutes. We have section of minutes from the regular meeting on March 23rd and the call section on March 30th.
Mr. Chairman, I move for approval of the minutes on March 23rd, 2021, our regular meeting with the legislative director, Mr. Abdian, and also our minutes from our March 30th call meeting.
You've heard the motion by Ms. Anderson to approve the minutes from both meetings. Is there a second?
second.
Second by Mr. McDaniel. Are there any additions or deletions to the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. 7-0. All right, next we have an update on COVID-19 from Joey Avery, the Director of E911 Emergency Communications.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. I'll be very brief. I gave you a little packet with some information in that just for your reading. The first page is basically the last 14 days of COVID cases throughout Lawrence County based on the zip codes. And you can see some of the larger ones of Clinton. We've got 51 total cases within the last 14 days that are active. Lawrence has 109 active cases, and Gray Court has 53. If you look at the top, March the 27th, we had 195 active cases in the county. At 4/9, we had 252 cases. And those are on a 14-day rolling period, and some will add on and some will drop off. Today we had 3 cases reported today in the county. But I want to give you a little information here. Unfortunately, we got some sad news to report on 4/5, April the 5th. We had a confirmed death of a middle-aged person. Middle-aged person by DHEC standards is 35 years of age through 64. And on 4/6, we had an elderly person, and that's classified as 65 and older. And it's always sad to report that we're still having deaths from COVID-19. So that means that our COVID is still very present in our county. And I've got a little information sheet that I printed out also. I stumbled upon this looking at some other articles today, but Go Lawrence Clinton and Go Lawrence and the Go Lawrence Clinton site basically has some nice dashboard information there from DHEC. And I would encourage everybody that wants to see some things that's going on with COVID in DHEC's perspective to look on that site, and they're being updating those on a regular basis. Also, our next sheet that you have in your packet is a picture of the state, and you see Lawrence in there, and this came out today. You see the counties around us, and we're the 5th highest around the upstate. Spartanburg, Greenville, Anderson, and Pickens have more numbers than we do. So we're still very active in the upstate. Also, you have a packet or a flyer in your packet, and we're having a pop-up vaccination site. That vaccination site will be April the 15th, 2021 at Pleasant Grove Baptist Church. I've given each council member a copy of that. I've given a copy to our press, so we hope to get some press coverage on that. The drawback to that is you must have an appointment to get vaccinated. And we'll put that information out so that they can have the call-in number and all that. These pop-up sites happen short notice. I wish we could get into a 2 or 3 week notice, but what they do is when they get some extra vaccines in, they'll try to get into the communities to where the need is and have a site and get people registered, get vaccinated. I will tell you that there was a talk and some conversation about having a pop-up site with Johnson & Johnson, but that has been since put on hold since CDC has put a pause on that vaccine. And on the last page there, I also have that statement from DHEC about the Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccine. Our county is working extremely hard. We still have a couple folks who are quarantined, and we hope to get them back in the next couple of days. EMS is still running hard. They're taking and transporting people who meet the criteria that's been put in place since last March, and to alert our first responders out there that may have a need to go in and see if they can put the proper PPE on to protect themselves as well as assist the citizens out there. We're not having any supply issues right now with our PPE, so I'm very, very proud and say that we can handle ourselves without waiting on and cringing if something's coming in. We have a good supply on hand, and we will keep that supply there for our first responders as needed. And that's a summation, very quick. I'll be glad to entertain any questions from any council members, should they have any.
Any members of council have any questions for Mr. Avery? And I appreciate all your hard work at keeping up with these numbers. I know it takes a lot of your day to do it, and I appreciate keeping our people safe. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
All right, next we have old business approval appointments. Does anybody have any new proposals for any of the county boards and commissions?
Mr. Chairman, I actually would like to make an amendment to what we currently have. We have approved Ken Porter and reappointed him to the Gateway project. So I'd like to have him on that list.
Okay, what was the name again?
Ken Porter. He currently serves on the board of the reappointment.
Okay. Are there any other additions at this time? All right, we'll take Mr. Porter as a nomination from Councilman Rankin for his district on the Gateway Board. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. 7-0. We all have, or not all of us, several of us have a few spots on this list. I encourage you to continue to work diligently. We are, if you look in your packet, address the ordinance, and we are past the 90-day mark. If you have somebody you think would be a good fit on one of these boards that is in another council member's district with a vacant slot, you can now bring that to council, but I do ask you to discuss it with that particular council member before you bring it to us and ensure that they're on board with that appointment. All right, we'll move straight into new business. We'll call first on the county attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The resolution regarding stifle, they're our financial advisory, and that should be contract, not control. It is required by law now to have a financial advisor other than an employee of the county on hand for all bond issues. As council is aware, we're getting ready to do the capital project sales tax bond and possibly other bonding capacities. We have been working with Stifel for the last several years, and we highly recommend that Brent Robertson and his crowd of Stifel, we renew their contract as attached to the resolution. The only thing I need from Ms. Kirk would be the fund number where that thing comes from.
All right. Ms. Kirk, you happen to have that in front of you this evening?
I can get that probably tomorrow or later in the week.
All right, good. The funds are allocated, I assume.
Yes, the funds were allocated last year, and I think it's the same fund. I just don't remember which one it was.
All right, you've heard the recommendation from the county attorney. I'll now open the floor for any motions. Would you like to ask, you have questions, Sandy?
I'm good at building on stuff.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Carroll,
Second.
second by Mr. McDaniel. Is there any discussion?
You don't have a time period on this, it's just 1 year, or is it more than 1 year?
We left it over, we have to renew it because you can't extend the contract beyond 1 year. Can't obligate council to that.
Okay, I understand.
But we did not cut it off because it's kind of out of sync with what our fiscal year is.
Mhm.
So, and that precipitated when we did the refinance of the bonds about 2 years ago. So it is essentially a 1 year agreement.
It's not, and we only use them when we issue bonds, so it wouldn't be a rolling, like they aren't on for 5 years at a time per se. So we only use them when we need them.
And that's the only way they get paid is when we do a bond issue.
And I realize that, but I don't know what I thought we had, time limit on each time, that's what I thought.
It's essentially renewal every year, and that Brent and I have kind of done that the last couple of years, is we make sure we renew it consistent, trying to get it consistent with your fiscal year.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Are there any other questions? Or any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Motion to approve resolution 2021-27C. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. 7-0. All right, next we have ag program. I'll call on the county attorney once again.
Thank you, Mr.
Chairman,
Chairman.
if you get to see Sandy.
And as you can see, we kind of fill up the page. This is and I think those council members that have been on council for a number of years are aware that Clemson Extension program and how they help the county. It's a $25,000 appropriation that the county makes each year for the extension program support agreement, which essentially takes care of most of the cost of the agent that is assigned to Lawrence County. It has traditionally been part of the budget, and if you do this, then I would just roll it into the budget when the budget is approved. The agreement is attached that outlines how the money would be spent.
All right, you've heard the recommendation by the county attorney to approve resolution with Clemson University County Extension Program to support their agreement for fiscal year 2021-2022. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. McDaniel,
Second.
second by Mr. Carroll. Is there any discussion or questions on this one? Yes, ma'am.
I realize, we always support Clemson Extension Service. But I'm wondering now, since of the pandemic, because I know they've been closed most of the year, if I'm not mistaken, if somebody can tell me, because Brian always come in and talk to us in relation to this. I know I serve on the advisory board, and I think, I don't think he could meet with the advisory board, but I only attended one time. And so people are doing different things, and they might not, and I don't know what the plans are for Clemson extensions right now. Listen, Brian is here to give us some feedback. Is there any kind of way we can table this or either address it during the budget session that we are having on the 16th?
We could, if you'd like to make a motion to table. I mean, I'd be voting in favor of this. Actually, during the pandemic, while they weren't, certain employees of the state weren't allowed to meetings or see people in person, they were very busy because, as you know, everybody was at home, couldn't be anywhere. So the amount of soil samples and the amount of gardening that was being done, they were actively busy and adapting with online programs. They were doing a lot. They might not have been meeting like they normally do, but they were active. And I would personally, given the vast amount of ag in this county, I would definitely be voting in favor of this to continue this small amount of funds to ensure that they can operate within our county and benefit our residents that are, I mean, we use them. I mean, everybody, all the farmers use them on a regular basis.
Well, I know I serve on the advisory board, but I'm looking at people changing what they do after this pandemic is over. And I think a lot of people are gonna make a lot of changes. And
I think you will still have a local agent, and this is essentially what that pays for.
I don't know that, but I really think we still have the presence of Clemson Extension. I
Oh,
really
yes.
believe that. And, but I would just like to table it until we can, hear from Brian and have some more information.
All right, well, you make that form of motion with action.
Yes.
There's a motion to table. Is there a second? Hearing none, the motion dies. If there's no further discussion, I will now call for the vote on the motion to approve resolution 2021-28C. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. All those opposed? Abstentions? Are you?
I'm not opposing the extension, but
That's
I'm
okay.
not.
All right, so 6 in favor, 1 abstention. All right. Next, I'll call on Joey Avery.
Mr. Chairman, County Attorney and I will double team this if you don't mind.
Sure.
Sandy, you want to talk about the resolution?
Yeah, the resolution is to authorize the Upper Savannah SC Works internship agreement, which, as I understand, is no cost to the county. It gives another head count for Joey's use in what he needs.
This agreement has come about to help Lawrence and Greenwood counties to identify homebound individuals and try to get them vaccinated. So this person will be doing some administrative work, making some contacts, doing some data collection on that. And then we'll be working closely with DHEC to get them into those locations and get the people vaccinated. There's a huge, this is Joey's opinion, that there is a large population out there that we're just missing, and we just need to reach out to them. And this will give us a way to do that under a grant. Upper Savannah contracts with Gleams, and they pay all the workman's comp, they pay everything. And I just give them a place to work, give them a telephone, and give them duties to perform during the hours that they are there. This is capped at a certain number of hours, and it depends on, the hours can be extended, but they have about 300 hours that they'll cap it unless there's more monies there to allow more hours. This is a great asset for Lawrence County and Greenwood County to be able to achieve this asset.
Awesome. You answered one question. The only other question I have for I was going to ask for a motion is, will they be splitting those 300 hours between Lawrence and Greenwood? Or are they going to be stationed here, covering both counties? How does that work?
Lawrence County and, to my knowledge, Greenwood County will each have a representative doing the same type of work.
And there'll be no funds required from the county budget?
No funds required, and there's a form to fill out, and I will sit down with the Upper Savannah and we'll go through those questions and fill the information out, and then we'll sit down and do an interview with the individual and make sure they understand the requirements placed upon them. And number two is make sure they're capable of doing what we want them to do. So.
And the position is solely focused on finding people.
COVID related, I'll leave it there, be COVID related. But that's a big focus that we have out there is homebound population that's unable to get out and to go. Now, some of the other COVID work that I do certainly can help and assist me with that.
All right, you've heard the recommendation by Mr. Avery, Mr. Crookshanks. I'll now open the floor for any motions.
I move that we approve the resolution 2021-29C. But I think we need to remove the line funds for payment will be funded out of that. Can we remove that section?
Yes, ma'am.
We have a motion by Ms. Anderson to approve resolution 2021-29C with the exclusion of the sentence that says funds for payment will be funded from blank. So we will scratch that sentence in the form of this motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Carroll. Are there any other questions or further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of approving resolution 2021-29C, please raise your right hand. All those opposed? Motion passes 6-1. Councilmember Rankin in opposition.
Okay, thank you, council.
Thank you. All right, next I'll call on the county attorney. Once again.
Did I get extra pay for this? We've got a series of ordinances that are getting their first reading. If you'll notice in 8D and also skipping down to 8I, there are two ordinances that are pretty much ready to go. One's a settlement control. It's a revision of one that's probably 25, 30 years old. It kind of gets things up to date. You see a lot of the silt screens and things of that nature. DHEC handles anything over 1 acre. It's county's responsibility for 1 acre or less. We've been working with Mr. Bobo on this, and what our suggestion was just to make sure that everything is included and satisfactory to council is we would ask the chair, please refer this to a committee for final approval, bring back to council, or send it to the planning commission, either one. But just to give a once over to make sure we've included or excluded things that need to be in there and things that don't need to be in there. But we would like to go with title only, so that it is then a pending legislation that's in place, so we can start getting ready for enforcement.
All righty, you have heard the recommendation by the county attorney. Do I have a motion to approve in name only, or in title only, ordinance number 895?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Rankin,
Second.
second by Ms. Anderson. All those in favor of approving ordinance 895 in title only, please raise your right hand. Motion passes 7-0. Mr. Crookshanks, did you have a committee in mind that you wanted this, or Mr. Bobo, if he's here? Did you have a committee in mind you wanted this to go to? I'm pulling them up right now just to look.
I was gonna say, I don't have the list in front of me, but I think it would probably be in the, it's more of a regulatory matter.
This is local. I'll sign it when we get to 8I. By that time, they'll have it.
Okay.
We'll do them. We'll sign both of those here in just a minute.
Okay.
All right, next we have first reading on ordinance number 897. I'll just take that one, Mr. Crookshanks. This is an ordinance to combat the litter in Lawrence County, South Carolina. As I think everybody is fully aware, litter is a drastic issue in our county as elected officials. I'd say half of my calls I get are on litter and the other half are on roads. That pretty much fills up the majority of the phone calls we get. So I'm excited this evening to present this. This has been in the works for a few months now. If the sheriff would like to say anything toward the litter, I'll be glad to let him speak. If he doesn't, we're good. Okay. I hear you. So currently, we do have some ordinances, nuisance mainly, that our building codes department has the ability to prosecute on. They're covered up, they're busy. This litter ordinance gives more power back to the sheriff's deputies, all of them, and the litter officers, which we currently have in this county, who issue litter tickets, to deal with trash nuisance on properties and all of the above. The city of Lawrence, the city of Clinton are both looking to pass mirror ordinances to this one. The county already covers Gray Court, but they have been involved in the conversations, and the city of Fountain Inn has also been involved in conversations over this ordinance. And their intent is to take this one and Greenville's work together and come up with another one also for the city of Fountain Inn. So all the municipalities in this area are working diligently to curb the litter problem. There is one section we are going to admit before I'm going to make a motion on this one. On the last page of this ordinance, in the first full paragraph, one that addresses the fine for illegal dumping. The last part, if you read South Carolina Code of Law 1976, facility not intended for public deposit of litter or garbage, from the word provided to the end, we're going to scratch. Mr. Yance brought to our attention that there was a piece in there that I did not desire to be in this ordinance when I wrote it. And we're going to scratch that out before we even get started. So with that, everybody have that notes, starting at provided and scratching to the end of the paragraph. So everything from provided to the end of the paragraph. With that being said, I will make a motion to pass ordinance number 897, an ordinance to establish regulations for the control of litter within the Lawrence County and all other matters appertaining thereto.
I second that motion.
Second by Mr. Rankin. Is there any discussion? Or comments? Hearing none, I will call for the vote on first reading of ordinance number 897. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion passes 7-0. I'm very excited to see this one go through. Thank you all for your support on that matter. Next, I will call again on the county attorney for first reading on ordinance number 898.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 898 and 899 are the first readings for the general operating budget for the county and for the fire service budget. The numbers you see in there are based on what the final readings were for last year's budget. We have done this traditionally simply to get the ball rolling so that the reading process is started and the timing can be such that by the first meeting in June, we would be in a position to finalize the budget and have a public hearing and third reading. So the numbers will change as we address it, as y'all address the budget. But this is simply using last year's template to go forward into this year. We've done this for probably the last 10 years that I can think of. So this just gets the process started. This is not final numbers, obviously, on either one on 898 or 899.
All right, thank you, Mr. Cruikshank. Do I have a motion to approve ordinance number 898 in first reading?
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Carroll, second by Mr. McDaniel. Is there any discussion on this? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of approving ordinance 898 on first reading, please raise your right hand. Motion passes 7-0. We do have a budget meeting this Saturday morning to begin addressing that. Ms. Kirk, Mr. Satterfield, and myself met with multiple department heads today, and we're starting to delve through it. We have more meeting with us this week and on Saturday. And I look forward to us pounding out this budget this year. I think the numbers are looking good and positive things. I'll call back from the county attorney for ordinance number 899.
This would be the same scenario. This is last year's fire budget based on the 20 mills that are assessed. The numbers obviously will change. The value of the bill, I think, in the fire district has gone up slightly, not a whole lot, but this is again just to get the process started so that Greg and his department will have everything in place and can begin getting their contracts done as we move through the budget process for the fire. So we would ask first reading on this just to get it in sync with the general operating budget.
Further recommendation by Mr. Cruikshank. Do I have a motion for ordinance number 899 on first reading?
Motion approved.
Motion by Mr. Carroll,
Second.
second by Mr. Rankin. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion passes 7-0. Mr. Cruikshank.
Ordinance 900 is the local option sales tax. Again, this is a duplicate of what you did last year. This is the first reading to apply 100% of the local option sales tax back to the taxpayer for tax relief.
All right, you've heard the recommendation from Mr. Cruikshank for ordinance number 900. Do I have a motion to approve ordinance 900 on first reading?
So move to approve ordinance 900. Second.
Motion by Mr. McDaniel, second by Mr. Carroll. Is there any other discussion?
Ms. Anderson, I just as a matter of precaution, because of the many amendments that have been made back and forth in local option, I just felt it was appropriate and for information purposes to the general public to assure that that's how the process would be done last year and again this year.
I do agree with Sanderson. Sometimes we do things that are redundant, but however, on this particular item, the clarity, I think, is important to the constituents and the tax assessor and treasurer and everybody involved.
I'd rather have more than miss something than not have enough.
And two, so right now, the way it will be written is all the local option sales tax money is going back to the taxpayer. Should we decide in middle of June that we would like to retain it, we would not have enough time to reissue ordinances to make that pass before the budget. So in theory, this could change by third reading to retain that 29% that we have in the past. So I think it is important we pass it in case it changes. Now, I don't anticipate it changing, but in case it does, it is a formality. There's a motion on the floor. If there's no further discussion, I'll now call for the vote on first reading of ordinance number 900. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. All those opposed? Abstentions. Motion passes 6-0 to 1. Ms. Anderson and abstention. All right, next, we have county attorney once more.
Ordinance 901 is the revised county road ordinance. Over the years, there have probably been a half a dozen different ordinances dealing with roads, private roads, road construction. About 2 years ago, about the time Dale came on, we started working with Mr. Stoddard in Roads and Bridges and trying to develop, number one, an official road list of all the roads that we have in the county that are maintained or owned by the county. Secondly, as we got into that part, we looked at the issues with regard to duplications, conflicting statements in the 5 or 6 ordinances that were there. So we have painstakingly gone through probably 10 or 11 versions of this to get it to a point that we are ready to present to a committee or to the planning commission, whatever the chair deems more appropriate, so that we can get this on the books, which would then provide an official list of all the county roads. We have not had an official list in my tenure here. That will solve a lot of problems. We also have provided that as roads are added, they can be done by resolution rather than having to go through a 3 reading and public hearing, so long as they meet the criteria in the roads. And I want to commend Dale and Tim for all the hours that they have spent pouring through my drafts back and forth, making corrections. So I think we're ready now to put a good draft in front of either a committee or in front of the planning commission so that we can move this forward. I think it's a great step for the county to have this in place. Those that are building subdivisions or trying to do roads, it's pretty clear now how you don't have to go to 5 different places to find out, what kind of base you got to have on a road. It's all going to be in one document. So I think it's a good work, and I thank Dale and Tim for their work. And also would highly recommend that we approve first reading and for the chair to assign it to the committee.
All righty, you've heard the recommendation by the county attorney. Is there a motion to approve ordinance number 901, first reading by title only?
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Mr. Rankin, second by Mr. Carroll. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion passes 7-0. We will now do the committee assignments on both of these. The road one's easy. Committee on Public Works, chairman is Mr. Tribble, along with Ms. Anderson and Mr. Yance. I will ask Mr. Tribble to get with Ms. Walsh and work on certain time for that committee meeting to address the ordinance for the county roads. As far as the one we addressed earlier on sediment control, I would take recommendations from council members that could fall under Public Works, or it could fall under, we have a committee on Parks, Rec, and Tourism and Natural Resources, which addresses watersheds, the lake, natural forests, conservation districts.
For personal opinion, Public Works, I think would probably be the logical place to put it.
All right, we will take the recommendation of the county attorney, and I'll point that one as well to the committee on Public Works. So Mr. Tribble, if you'll just get with Ms. Walsh and set that committee up, and at y'all's leisure, when you are ready to bring it back to council, we will gladly take it. All right, next, we have a call on Mr. Andy Howard. We have approval being asked for the ATAX committee.
Yes, sir. This is the committee that we have to form by the Tourism Expenditure Review Committee on a yearly basis. In the past couple of years with COVID, we've had some issues getting these folks together. And it's always been an issue because of the restrictions on these members. We've actually got a good list this year. These people are very qualified, and I'm here to answer any questions you have maybe about ATAX or of these board recommendations.
All Are there any questions of Mr. Howard?
If you get this money back from tourism, would that be gonna impact much?
Well, honestly, the way the money works is, say Myrtle Beach takes in $2 billion and we take in $20. They take that money from this Broaden and Charleston, things like that, and they divvy it up amongst the counties. So we do receive a decent amount of money. Anything over $65,000, you have to form this committee. Anything under $65,000, you don't have to form a committee. So yes, we do. And the way it works is 35,000 of that actually goes to our general fund. And then the remainder of that, after that 35,000, 5% of that goes to the general fund. And then 30% has to go to a tourism promoting agency. Usually the Chamber of Commerce as part of our funding of them. And then the rest of it, we've always given out in grants for festivals, things like that. And we've also used it in grant matches for some grants that we've done for Parks and Recreation and Tourism. And we tend to focus on these applicants advertising with a strong push for them to advertise outside of the county. Otherwise, it's not really generating tourism. It's done very well in the past, the way we've done this. And it's generated a lot. I don't know if you all remember, but sometime back we talked about it. Lawrence County actually generates close to the same amount of accommodations tax as Greenwood. And with that being said, Greenwood has a lot more, I should say, venues and attractions that you can come to. And we also have the beauty of the interstates. So we've got a good opportunity to gain more, and these festivals actually, promote that. And I think with the capital sales tax and the addition of the Ag Center, I think we're going to gain a lot more here in the future.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions? Here none, I will accept a motion to approve the ATAX Advisory Committee appointments as presented.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Carroll,
Second.
second by Mr. Tribble. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion passes 7-0.
One more thing, Mr. Chairman, their recommendations will still come back to council for final approval before the money is spent.
Thanks for heading that up, Andy. I know you do a lot of work in the county. We are greatly appreciative of that.
Thank you.
All right, next I'll call on Mr. Wilson for a request on parking lot maintenance at the Health and Human Services Building.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, members of council. This is at our Human Health Services building that house DSS on one side, Health Department on the other. Last year, we were audited by ADA, came out and done an inspection of the building and everything. And the biggest thing they got us on was our parking lot. And this building has two separate lots. This lot is the main lot in front of the building. They got us for the cracks, the repair, the potholes, the loose stone, things like that. People in wheelchairs, clients in wheelchairs, walkers, things like that. They're looking at them falling, tripping, turning over, things like that. So we looked around and got some quotes and some pricing on doing the repairs to the parking lot. Just this lot here is right at 35,000 square feet. The adjacent lot that is out to the side, that is not necessarily used by any clients or patrons or anything of the building. The biggest thing they've been using that lot for is the drive-through COVID testing and vaccines so far. So that's not part of this. But the prices ranged anywhere from $7,900 to $15,000 to have this done. So what we are requesting, is that amount of the $7,928, which that will go back and fix the potholes. They will brush and sweep the parking lot, get it all free and clear of any loose stone, and then go back and line it for us with the proper parking space alignments and the handicap spacing also.
All right. You heard the recommendation from Mr. Wilson. Have you thought about where you might want to see this money come from? Not I have a recommendation.
I was hoping y'all would come up with a better idea than what I had.
I can do that. Ms. Kirk, please correct me if I'm wrong, but in Fund 520, the contingency fund, which we allocated $125,000 to in the 2021 budget, we have spent zero, 8 months into our budget.
That is correct.
So I would recommend that we take this $7,900 and change out of the contingency fund, as that's what it's designed for.
This is not in-house. This is not in-house.
This will be an award of a contract.
A bid, yes.
Okay. I'll need the name on that.
Okay.
For resolution purposes.
All right.
After they patch everything, they're gonna seal it.
That will seal it and it'll actually get 2 coats of sealer on it and then reline it and then, with the proper parking space
We
mark.
have to put this out for bid, or?
It's already been
We're already in that
done.
process?
Yep.
All right. Is there any motion, and do you need any buffer, or is 7928
That's good for 90 days. So we're good. Mr. Crookshanks, can I get that to you in the morning?
Yes.
That's right.
All right.
Thank you.
I have a motion on the floor to approve 7928 out of the contingency fund for cleaning, patching, sealing, and repainting the Health and Human Services parking lot. Motion by Mr. Young, second by Mr. Carroll. Is there any other discussion on this matter?
I know I want to add
Go ahead.
recommendation for a little bit. That's gotta be open to you.
Well,
That-
unfortunately, it's our bill, but I wish they would give us some more money.
I
I
was-
agree with that statement.
So I was asking anyway. You might not get it.
I always do, and it always comes back the same answer, so
Okay.
I do try.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
I agree with that. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll now call for the vote. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion passes 7-0. Next, I will actually call on Mr. McDaniel for Child Abuse Prevention Month resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to thank the Lawrence County Sheriff's Office for bringing this to council's attention on behalf of Lawrence County First Steps. They wanted to present a resolution declaring April as Child Abuse Prevention Month, and I will read the resolution as follows. Whereas all children deserve to have the safe, stable, nurturing homes and communities they need to foster their healthy growth and development. Whereas children are vital to our state's future success, prosperity, and quality of life, as well as being our most vulnerable assets. Whereas the pinwheel is a national symbol for child abuse prevention, and each pinwheel symbolizes hope that children will have safe, happy, and carefree childhoods. Whereas child abuse prevention is a community responsibility, and finding solutions depends on involvement among all people. Whereas effective child abuse prevention strategies succeed because of partnerships created among citizens, human service agencies, schools, faith communities, healthcare providers, civic organizations, law enforcement agencies, and the business community. Now therefore be resolved that Lawrence County recognizes April as Child Abuse Prevention Month and call upon all citizens, community agencies, faith groups, medical facilities, elected leaders, and businesses to increase their participation in our efforts to support families, thereby preventing child abuse and strengthening the communities in which we live. I know most people have seen the blue pinwheels outside and all around the county. Those are the symbol of child abuse prevention. And once again, I'd just like to thank Sheriff's Office and Lawrence County First Steps for presenting this resolution, and I will make the motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second. Motion by Mr. McDaniel and second by Mr. Rankin. I will take this moment also to say I'm thankful to the Sheriff's Office and all you do, especially Courtney Snow that works for you. We're lucky to have her in our county and all that she does for the children throughout this county. As as well as our First Steps and all the other organizations throughout the county that look out for these children, when they have folks that won't do it for them. Is there any other comments on this resolution before we call for the vote? Hearing none, I will call for the vote to approve resolution number 2021-30, declaring April as Child Abuse Prevention Month in Lawrence County. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion passes 7-0. All right, next I'm going to call on Ms. Bolton from Human Resources.
Chairman Patterson, Council, I'm bringing to you tonight a request to approve a new job description. It is a result of, we advertised for licensed appraisers, and we didn't get appraisers that were licensed that applied. The market is such that it's going to be very difficult for us to get that human resource that we need, the human capital that we need. In concert with the assessor's office, Mr. Satterfield, David Satterfield, we developed, helped us to develop a job description for another position that is basically an appraiser's assistant, if you will. It's a data collector. They go out and collect the majority of the data. And please correct me if I'm wrong. They go out and collect the majority of the data, and then a licensed appraiser will put the value, will value the property based off of that. That seems to be a trend in the state because of the difficulty getting those positions. With that, it didn't seem appropriate, or wasn't appropriate, that those folks would make the same money as an appraiser, particularly if we brought somebody in as a data collector, or asked them to do the job, and then whenever they were promoted, they wouldn't get any, or whenever they obtained that license, they wouldn't get any additional. So the recommendation is to bring them in 2 pay grades below an appraiser, which is about 9.86% below, and that information's in there. It's a pay grade 15. If I missed anything, please let me know. And otherwise, this is the recommendation for Human Resources, and we'd like this so that we can put those positions out there. We have some turnover in that department, and need that resource.
All right, thank you, sir. Before I ask for a motion, I did want to ask Mr. Satterfield if you want to come up. We discussed this briefly earlier today. I believe you have 2 vacant positions in that office for appraisers, if I'm not mistaken. Is that
I just have
correct?
one right now.
Okay.
I got the second one is looking to find out if Medicare will pay for a surgery that he needs.
Okay.
And then if he gets the okay on that, he's coming out his retirement.
All right. All right. I know we discussed potentially having help instead of searching for an appraiser for 6 months and not finding one.
Yeah, Don, the position that's open now, he had a stroke, and then.
So currently you only have 1 open position.
Right now, currently, yes.
Okay. All right, then we will address this one, and when you're ready for us to, we'll address the other one. All right. All right, so the recommendation on the table from the Human Resource Director is that we approve this new job description and move the current pay grade of 17 down to a pay grade of 15 as presented. Is there a motion to approve as presented?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Carroll.
Second.
Second by Mr. McDaniel. All those in favor, please raise your right hand.
I have a question.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Can you run this through the person that's looking at, all our rates and compensation plan?
The compensation study,
Yeah.
we have not, this has not been approved, so we haven't submitted this for them to evaluate this, but it will be. We can get this submitted to them for the evaluation, but we're basing this off of the same pay structure as that we have now that would be for an appraiser. It's just going to be a percentage less than that. So it would, in essence, it would be commensurate with what they come up with in the future.
So yes, we will submit this to the consulting firm, and they will report back to us, and we would address that in the 2022 budget along with all the other.
I want to make sure that it's not be addressed, and not just left out there, and then all of a sudden we're in the same that we've been in before. We're just trying to do something to make do, because we can't find the people we need to
Right.
find. And then we feel like we're underpaying them.
Right, and we needed approval of what they need to evaluate.
Okay.
And I talked to Mr. Satchel too, and I asked him, the person that they hire, whomever they may be, once they, attain certification, should they do so, then they should bring it back to us and we can be able to bump them to an appraiser pay if they're able to obtain that certification. I think that'd be quite appropriate. Then, and once again, if that were to happen, please approach us again and ask for that bump. All right, well, there's a motion on the table. Is there any further discussion on this one? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor of approving the job description and pay grade as presented, please raise your right hand. Motion passes 7-0. Thanks, both. Did anybody sign up for public comments this evening? I don't believe we had any. All right, we will move straight into county council comments. I'll start on my right, Mr. Rankin.
No comments.
Mr. Tribble.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of things. Had a meeting last week in Joanna where Sheriff Reynolds was in attendance, and that the people in the room were laying out their concerns about the need for law enforcement. And I was reminded that we live in a tough world, where bad people do bad things to good people, and we've got to have somebody to turn to, because we can't be the ones that stand up against that kind of force. And so, somehow or another, we've got to make this whole thing work, where we do have somebody to turn to that's a good guy on our side. And I'm glad that the sheriff and his department are available to do that. Secondly, Chairman Patterson and I have been involved in this conversation about the trail between Clinton and Lawrence, and that probably going to say something about that in every meeting because it's important. It's important to the future of the county. And so this constitutes bringing it up. I also want to say, as we head into the budget time, members of council and ladies and gentlemen, that I was involved in an economic development conversation earlier this month, and it involved distribution. And I was reminded of my campaign promises to attempt to widen Highway 72. I have a vision of having Lawrence County sitting at the center of a 5-point star with interstates, 4 lanes going to Greenville and Asheville and Spartanburg and Charlotte and Athens, Georgia, and Charleston and Columbia in every direction. And that that distribution is a big deal, being able to get your materials out. And I want that to be on everybody's mind as we move through such things as budget time. And finally, Mr. Chairman, thanks for indulging me. I'd like for all of us to have written, or as much as we can, about the instructions that come along with stimulus money, about what it can and can't be spent for, and what the rules and regulations might be. I realize that at this point that may not be completely known, but as much as we can, as soon as we can, so that we might do some creative thinking. The amount of money that's being spent, not just on the stimulus money, but on the penny sales tax and other things, it's going to constitute the largest amount of money spent on public kinds of things in my public life. And that I just want to make sure that we score with it, that we do things of permanent and lasting value that increase the quality of the people's lives and save them money on such things as their sewer costs and perhaps water costs. And that I'd like to have a chance to really think through that, perhaps even take those rules to my constituents to enhance my own understanding of my district and the full county. But thank you, Mr. Chairman, for that opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Earl. Ms. Giannis. All right. Mr. Van.
No comments.
Ms. Sanders.
I'm just going to general a little bit on what Mr. Kimball said in reference to some of the funds that we're getting in. And I like to make sure we include broadband so we can get out into the community, so we can make sure that everybody can, plug into the internet when they need to plug in, because it's a move towards doing a whole lot of things based on the internet. You can even see your own doctor. And with it not being out in some of the dense areas of the county, we really need that there. And the students need it also to help them along with their studies. And I thank Joey for his comments regarding the COVID, but I also would like us to push for those families who had deceased members as cause of the COVID-19, that there are funds out there to help them with funeral services. And so I would like to make sure that those persons who are in need of assistance be able to touch bases with Joanne, anybody here in the county, to help them out to make sure that they get the funds that they need, if they need them, and the process that they need to have. Make sure, I just want to make sure they ask somebody who they know and not just pick up the telephone, because there are going to be some people out there who are trying to do something fraudulent toward them to get monies from them. And so I want us to be a resource when they need help.
Thank you, Ms. Henderson. Mr. Carey.
Yes, sir. Just wanted to say, since we've been in this budget session, this budget season so far, and we had a loss of personnel, that there was probably a lot of angst with the departments and concerns. And I just want to thank you, Mr. Chairman, for stepping up and meeting with department heads and taking control of this process and making sure that the county won't have any issues. I've been impressed by that. It's one thing.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. To piggyback off that, I was glad to meet today with Ms. Kirk and Mr. Sackville, the majority of our department heads, and get some things ironed out for our upcoming budget. We still have several to meet with, and I'm looking forward to those meetings as well. I want to reiterate again on this litter ordinance we passed first reading on tonight. I'm extremely excited to see that get through and really put some teeth to clean it up in the county. I did reference it earlier. The last date that our litter ordinance was updated was in 1983, so it has been long overdue. So I'm really excited to see that. To get back on the stimulus, Mr. Tribble, there's NACO's actually having a conference later on this month. I'm sure Ms. Kirk and Ms. Sheffield will be on that if I'm able to be. And I'll forward that invitation to the rest of the council if you didn't already receive it from NACO. But we hope to get some guidance on that. There are a lot of unknowns. There's a few precise things and then just broad genericness. So I hope they can kind of isolate that. I've talked to other counties, multiple mayors, and they're just as in the dark as we are, and all the municipal associations also trying to figure it out. One comment on broadband to Ms. Anderson. I do have one insight on that. Luckily, Lawrence County, by percentage of property, is the most covered broadband county in the state. I say that to say this is because we are, it's easy for us to forget and say, oh, we already have the most, let's not do anything. But there are still areas that are in drastic need of that service. And really the cities, the inner cities, don't have that access to broadband currently. And I think that would be a good item that we might look at spending some of that money on to ensure that the students in schools have the ability to do their homework. My son who's in 4K comes home every night and does homework on a computer. It blows my mind. When we were 5, we went and played in the river after we got out of school. But you know, if you don't have a computer, don't have internet today, you can't do school. So that is vitally important, and I thank you for bringing that up and encourage you to continue to encourage us to make sure we make that a priority when we look at this stimulus money. With that being said, we will now move into executive session for a legal briefing on building and grounds and employment matter for administration. And I will take a motion to do so.
So move to enter executive session for legal briefing and employment matter.
Motion by Mr. McDaniel. Second by Ms. Anderson. The time is now 6:33, and the council will adjourn to executive session at 6:35.
Need to vote on the motion, Mr. Chairman.
If we all vote on that motion, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. 7-0. We good there? All right, time is now 7:53, and I will call council back into open session. Council met in executive session to discuss, two agenda items, legal briefing around building the grounds and employment matter related to administration. No action was taken in executive session. Is there any motions that need to be made, here in open session? Hearing none, I'll call for adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Mr. McDaniel, second by Mr. Carroll. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. 7-0.